I finished, I finished writing a book on Kung Fu and Awakening Self-Acceptance is the title of the book. And it's basically everything that I wish I knew before I started transitioning, and probably everything I wish I knew while I was transitioning. You know, going through a transition is sort of like stepping into the unknown, and it's like super, super confusing, difficult. I don't know. How's it feel for you? I wanted to create something where if you were to Google how to transition or figure out like what you should know as you go through this, that's what I made. And it's been really difficult to write. It took me about 6 months. You know, those kind of projects where it's a work of love and you really care and you want it to do really well in whatever way. Like, you just kind of keep working on it. I don't know. Maybe it's just because I'm a perfectionist. But I had to actually just stop myself at some point and just say, it's done. You have to cut it here and you have to move on. Because even when I finished it on Wednesday, I was still making final edits and changes, and I don't think I'd ever stop making those changes. I just had to move on. So I'll make a part 2. The funny thing with it, oh, and by the way, you can download it now in the comments section or the description. I've placed a link. It's free. It's a pay what you want kind of a situation. So it's $0, and if you want, you can also buy it. Yeah, there's a lot in there, and I'll probably make an entire year's worth of content just on the stuff that's in there, which is really cool. But for now, I just wanted to say that and say hello because I haven't posted a video this week, and it's just been a really intense week getting the book together, getting the website together, finding a place to distribute the book. And yeah, it's been a lot. So here I am. I miss you. And I thought, you know what? Why do I have to wait till I look the best with makeup or where I'm feeling the best or I know exactly what I want to say? You know, there's this there's this thing that I feel when we share things and when we create things and when we put stuff out into the world where we want it to be at a certain level and a certain degree of excellent or perfect, because we want to, I don't know, why do you want to do that? I want it to be that because I want it to be as most impactful for you and most powerful, and it gives you something where you go, wow. Let me know if that happens for you with the book. But sometimes it's better to just show up kind of unfinished. And I think that's sort of like the challenge that we experience when we transition, is it feels like you're unfinished and you have to step out into the world and be somewhat finished. You have to have a sense of identity of who you are, to come from a place of communicating what you are and who you've become and where you're going and what you want to do and, you know, all of those things. So yeah, this is me kind of doing the opposite. Hey, I'm like literally just making my tea this morning. I'm about to eat my oatmeal. I woke up from a nap. I woke up at like 5 a.m. today. Tomorrow at 9:15 a.m. Eastern time, I am doing a workshop on Kung Fu at the Philadelphia Trans Wellness conference, which is virtual. So if you want to join that, I'll also put the link down there below. In naming this book, I have come to a realization, and I wanted to share this because I think it's kind of like one of those things where it relates back to my transition, and it relates back to this idea that you can plateau. I shared my book, and in the book there is a piece on the trans roadmap. It's like a user journey, if you know what that is. It's a hero's journey of graphing out your emotional experience as you move through your transition. And it captures the entire thing. So if You think that's cool? Like, check it out. It's pretty cool. Towards the end, there's the last phase, which I call actualization. And actualization speaks about becoming crystallized in who you have wanted to become, and marks the end of your transition. But it doesn't really, because your actualization can be something that exists over a very, very long period of time. And so if I were to curve it out, it might be sort of like the last part where you come up out of the depths, what I call the trough of despair. There's this curve, and the curve kind of, it almost appears flat, but it actually continues to go. And that's probably one of the more interesting parts in the transition. I don't know where you are. Check out the roadmap. Let me know where you are. But if you're towards the end of your transition phase, there is this plateau, and I feel like I'm in it, where it feels like you're not really transitioning more, but in actuality, you're now putting the finishing touches on all of those things that you didn't have time to focus on or look at, and you're like really up-leveling there. Dumb things, like for me, like eyeshadow. I'm terrible at eyeshadow. I've always hated it. I've never invested my time in it. I've got a million other things to do. But now I'm like, oh, well, for Trans Pride, I want to have a trans eyeshadow, so I should learn that. But there's bigger things too, and I think the titling of this book is one of those bigger things. The working title for this book the entire time was Embracing Your True Self on Your Transgender Journey. That sounds great. It's you know, it's kind of, it hits all the general good angles of saying, oh, like I want to embrace and love myself. And it's a transgender journey, right? But it doesn't actually say anything, because as Ash has said in my Discord group, which you can also join, it's free, links down below. Ash has said that name is way too generic. And so we had a discussion in the Discord group about how we might change it, how I can actually take a stance on something. And through an evolution of thought, I came to the conclusion that really what I'm talking about is Kung Fu. Because Kung Fu actually really means, like, Kung means endeavor and effort, and Fu means doing this over time. And so to make it very succinct, it's sort of like an endeavor over time that requires effort. And that's a transition. And I'm Chinese, I don't know if you know that, but I feel like once I came into my form of being a trans woman, I realized how much effort and consistency it requires to really make it through and thrive in a way. How's it been for you so far? Does it feel like an effort? Are you reaping the benefits of being consistent? And what's it like when you're inconsistent? How does that make you feel? I think like some points in a transition, you just get tired. You just don't want to deal with it. You are like, all right, let's put it on the shelf. We're done. But you keep at it, I think, because you've basically chosen a path and you got to see it through. And by doing that, you reap the benefits of some consistency and pushing forward. Sometimes you don't feel like it, and sometimes you do, and sometimes you don't feel like you get anything out of it, and sometimes you do. And that's probably one of the more mysterious things of a transition, is sometimes the most powerful parts in your transition come at unexpected moments where you don't know when it's going to happen. It's like your brain and your subconscious get to a point where they're able to transform, but you have to be in a state and in a certain awareness where you're receptive to that transformation. And when these two things happen, you get the shift, you get the transformation, the catalyst, the chemical change. And it happens throughout your transition, but it also happens in what seems like the plateau. You just don't know it because you're not seeing the changes like they used to be every day. There's a lot more on this topic, obviously, and so I suggest you go check out the book. And thank you for joining me today. If you'd like to support me and join me in a Kung Fu workshop, I also am giving those now monthly. I've decided that it's time to commit to teaching Kung Fu, which will be another video, I'm sure. So check out Patreon and sign up. I'm giving a course next week. It's going to be a big one. Lovely to see you as always. Bye.